Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing some baseball. As you know, the season ended today, and God, my hair looks so weird. Season ended today, and 60 games were over. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my season preview video, which I did. Where I discussed, what teams I thought were going to win the division and stuff. And see how that panned out. So I made the initial video, which was during the coronavirus, where I thought there was gonna be a 162 game season, 2 wild cards, etc. So I did that, and then I found out about the 60 game season, and I made one video. So I made an updated video, just kind of reformulating my opinions. And stuff like that. And I kind of changed around some of my division picks, which really was bad. I kind of wish I sticked with some of my original predictions. But anyways, we'll go over that. And then I also, I had the 2 wild cards. I didn't do a 18 playoff because I'd already done so many videos and stuff that was just I'd already done 2 playoff videos for MLB, playoff predictions. So it's just whatever. Anyways, let's get into it. So for my initial video, the first video that I made it in March, with my predictions. I had winning the AL East, I had the Rays, and you can find this in the description. I had the Rays, then winning the AL Central, I had the Twins. By the way, one sec. And so I had the Twins, let me see, which I got, which is right. I had the A's, which is right. I had the Braves, which is right. I had the Cubs, which was right. And I had the Dodgers. I went 6 for 6 in my initial video that I made in March. Then, this is partly because of my idiot friend who knows a ton about baseball, convinced me otherwise. Part of me was, so I made the later video, which I think I published in June or something. And also for wild cards, I had the Mets and the D-backs. No, Mets and Phillies. Yeah, Mets and Phillies. So none of those hit, which is just pathetic. The Phillies not making the playoffs. Jesus God. Just terrible. And the Mets too. Wow, that's bad. But anyways, so I went 6 for 6 on my division predictions, but 0 for 2 on wild cards. But it doesn't even matter that much because there are a bunch of wild cards in the playoffs this year. And then so in my later video that I published in June, I had winning the AL. I had the Reds winning the NL Central. I had the Astros winning the AL West. So we're 0 for 2. I had the Yankees winning the AL East. I had the Dodgers winning the NL West, obviously. I had the Twins. I still stuck with the Twins. And then the Braves. So I went 4 for 6 on that. And then my wild cards, I had the Pods and the Nats. I guess I was okay. The Padres made the playoffs. So I was happy my prediction about that came out. But yeah, let's just discuss a little bit, those predictions. Crazy, I went 6 for 6, man, initially. And then, wild cards, I go 0 for 2 in the initial video. In terms of the Mets, I think it's unfortunate Stroman opts out. I think that hurt their rotation. Peterson going down hurt them too. A lot of it was the bullpen. You had a lot of games that were lost by that. The lineup is good. Alonso wasn't great this year, which I think hurt them. And DeGrom was great, but the other part of their starting pitching wasn't that great. So it's kind of just it's really unfortunate for the Mets. After you make that, they're 8 games below 500. Just kind of unfortunate. They lost a lot of NL East games. They didn't have a good season record against the Marlins, lost to the Braves a lot, lost to the Mets. Lost to the Nats. It's just, I don't really, being a Mets fan is painful. And, you should know that. It's just another, like, unfortunate underperforming season for them. They probably, like, you need to make the playoffs if there are 8 teams. Like, it's embarrassing that the Brewers made the playoffs over you guys. I mean, it's just too bad. And what's even more embarrassing is the Philadelphia Phillies missing the playoffs. You have Wheeler, who was actually pretty good this year. You have Arrieta, who's getting paid $1 billion. Then you have Harper. Harper, like, bro, like, seriously, he hit like 240. Like, I literally was just on his stat. Like, he hit like 250 again this year. Like, you can't just be like. There's gonna have to be a point where, like, us baseball fans are gonna start to say, like, Bryce Harper is an overrated player, because he can't just keep. Oh, he finished 268. All right, so he was 250 like a couple days ago. He missed a lot of games also because he was injured. I mean, he hits 268 and he had 13 home runs. I mean, he finished the season pretty hot. Again, it's only 60 games, so we can, like, only infer, so much about that. But, not he started out great also, but not like a dominant Harper year that we were expecting. Real Muto had a pretty good year. Didi had a good year. For the Phillies, it was mainly the bullpen. That really hurt them, and they tried to address it by getting Workman and Hembry from the Sox, and that didn't really work out, and it's too bad. I still think they have, like, a lineup problem. I think they do need a little more offense. It's just my opinion, and I don't know if the chemistry of that team is so great. I think it's a lot of guys kind of just jumbled together with big contracts, and let's go win. I thought Girardi was going to also. Girardi was a big reason why I picked him. It's because I thought he's a great manager and he's going to guide them to the playoffs. That wasn't the case. So, too bad, man. The Phillies missed the playoffs. Again, that's embarrassing that Milwaukee makes it over you guys. Really is. Milwaukee has, like, Brandon Woodruff and then a bunch of random guys as their starters. I mean, like Corbin Burns. So, that's pretty pathetic. So, that's that for those predictions. Then in terms of, like, so my later video that I published, I took the Reds to win the NL Central, and they were, like, somewhat close to winning it. Let me see how many games back they were. They were 3 games back. So it really was because they lost some games early, because their bullpen starting off was terrible. Lorenzen was awful. Garrett wasn't pitching that great. Rizal wasn't that great. They just had a lot of bullpen problems. And luckily, Lorenzen turned his season around, which is good. So did Garrett. Rizal somewhat. Their bullpen got better. Great starting pitching, obviously. You got Bauer, who's probably going to win the Cy Young. Got Sonny Gray, Castillo, all great years. Tyler Mahle is also nasty. Or Mayo, however you say his name. He's nasty. He had a good season. Decent season, I think. Their lineup overall wasn't that great. I saw, they had Castellanos coming in, started out really hot, and he had, like, a decent season. He hit like 225, but he had a lot of homers. Good on base percentage. Moose, I think, was like 225 too. Votto, not great. I think Votto was like 230 maybe. And, like, with a few home runs. The big one was Suarez, Eugenio. He hit like 205. Votto was 228 with 11 homers. The big one was Eugenio, though. Like, Suarez, he hit, like, a decent amount of home runs, but he hit like 205. And I didn't expect that from him, man. I thought he was going to hit better than that. He did have 15 homers. I'm cheating. But he hit 202. That's pretty bad. Akima had no home runs. Galvis was okay. But yeah, they got Shogo Akiyama. I mean, he hit 240, I think. No home runs, though. And then they traded Irvin. So he's not on the team. Cut Dietrich. They got Brian Goodwin. And he was like okay for them. Casale and Barnhart was like a decent tandem pair. And Nick Senzel was awful this year. So, that's that for the Reds. They're in the playoffs. I'll discuss that playoff matchup later. The Astros. So I took the Astros because they had the best lineup in the MLB post buzzer. Now it's probably not. I was hesitant because they didn't have great starting pitching. And their bullpen was really good. So I was like, all right, I'll take the Astros. Correa had a decent year. Altuve, not so good. Reddick, not so good. Let me check Brantley. I think Correa is like all right. And I think Springer was okay, but it wasn't like the usual Astros dominance that we're used to seeing, where like every guy's hitting really high for average. Brantley was 253, which isn't that great. That's better. So Brantley was 253, which it's not that great. Let me look up Correa real quick. But like I'm saying, and I hope you get the general vibe that I'm saying. It wasn't the usual dominant offensive year for the Astros. Correa was 256 with only 4 homers. Yikes. Altuve wasn't great, so not the usual dominance. Obviously, they lose Verlander. That hurts their rotation a lot. Framber Valdez had a good year. McCullers was good at home, but not great away. I thought he was overrated coming into the season. A lot of people are like, Lance McCullers will step right in that rotation. I don't think he's that great. I think he's like a mediocre starting pitcher, but Valdez was good. Greinke was good, even though he's lost 4 miles per hour on his fastball. Brandon Bielak, Notre Dame alum, gave them some couple quality starts, and then he kind of trailed off. And then their bullpen, Ozuna got hurt, so Presley filled in as closer, and he started off a bit rough. He blew some games, etc. So overall, the vibe is just off for the Astros this year. They're not the same team, and I think they'll lose pretty quickly in the playoffs. They play the Twins. I hope the Twins win that series, and I think the Twins probably will, but we'll talk about that later. Like I said, the Yankees, the main question for me with the Yankees, obviously, I took them because just their lineup is great compared to the Rays, and their bullpen is pretty good compared to, their bullpen's pretty good, and their starters, they got Cole, they had Paxton, they had Hap. I don't know why. I don't really know. I think I just took them because of their lineup. And the question for me now is can you build a team around Stanton and Judge? And that's a very valid question. They were out for most of the year, so, you had Mike Tauchman, Mike Ford, Clint Frazier filling in, who were good. The Sanchino, obviously, Gary Sanchez was slumping. Higashioka's a horrible backup. Glaber got hurt. And then their rotation coming into the season was banged up, and Paxton didn't have a good year. I think Hap was all right. Davey Garcia gave him some good starts. But when it came down to it, also, they just didn't beat the Rays when they played against them. They didn't. And most of that was because Judge and Stanton were out. But, coming into the season, this team looked scary, man. When they played the Nats and they were hitting all those bombs, in their lineup, they had, Aaron Hicks hitting ninth. It was damn, this is a really good team. But, the injuries just plagued them. And when your two best players, LeMahieu's probably better than Stanton, but, when Judge and Stanton are out, two of your better players, and you kind of build your team around them, it's really hard to compete at that. It's just hard to compete when your best players who are, Judge will be a $30 million player, and Stanton already is, and they're out all the time. Can you really build a team around them? So I think that's a really valid question. The Rays were just better than him. The Rays had a good bullpen. I'd love to talk about the Rays when we get into the next video, because I wish so badly I stayed with that, because I love watching them. I think they're such a cool team to follow. But anyways, overall, disappointing year for the Yankees. A lot of injuries, and it's too bad they finished second. At least they made the playoffs. At least they were better than the Blue Jays. We'll talk more about them later. Then Dodgers win, no surprise. Twins win the division somewhat easily, and then the Braves win their division somewhat easily. In terms of wild card, I'll talk real quick about the Pods. Really happy they finished second. They finally put it together. Machado, Tatis, Hosmer had a good year. Cronenworth, great rookie. Grisham had a decent year. Who else was good? Myers. They kind of just got lucky. Like, their guys all started playing well at the same time. Their starters were good. Lamet probably would be the breakout pitcher of the year, in my opinion, if they have that award. And then their bullpen acquisitions worked out for the most part. Pagan started off really shaky, but was pretty good. Pomeranz has been great. Kirby Yates is hurt. And, they made that. Davies had a good season. Who else started for them? I think Paddock was all right. I thought he would have a better season, to be honest. And who else am I? I'm missing a starter. I think Lucchesi got optioned to the other camp. Murray Hone, I think, started a few games for them. He was okay. But anyways, good season for the Pods, and I'm really happy. That prediction panned out of them making the playoffs. The Nats missed the playoffs. The Mets missed the playoffs, one, because you can't lose your best hitter for 2 years in a row and just think you'll they lost Harper and then they lost Rendon, and you can't just keep cycling in guys and think your lineup's gonna be good. Sorry, but you can't do that. I feel like they did have somewhat of a World Series hangover. Scherzer wasn't that great, Corbin wasn't that great, Sanchez wasn't that great, Strasburg got hurt, bullpen was a disaster. Just not a lot of talent in that lineup. So that's what they got to address. They got to get a big-time free agent to make the lineup better, because their lineup just isn't that good. But anyways, that's it, and we'll move on to the next one.